Hello, everyone. My name is Lieska, and I'm here to present to you the book report for the final test. So, as you can see on the screen, I have chosen a novel with title The Great Gatsby. Maybe some of you have ever heard about this novel or ever watched the movie that related to The Great Gatsby. So, in this context, I will try to describe and analyze further about this novel, which is from the setting that divided into the time and place, characters, the novel summary, lesson that I got, recommendation words, and also answering questions. Next, before we move further, I will explain to you the introductions of our topic today. So, firstly, Scott Fitzgerald is the author of the Great Gatsby novel. He is regarded as the greatest novelist and writers in this 20th century, and mostly he wrote short stories or novel with theme of youth, despair, and age. And there are several reasons why I choose this novel. So, firstly, this novel gained lots of interest and positive reviews from its critics, and it is categorized as one of the best literature work in this 20th century. Moreover, it also has a adaptations movie which engaged me for a better understanding about this novel. And lastly, I love to read romantic genre novel, which is The Great Gatsby is the best choices that I have. So those are the reasons why I choose this book to be analyzed further. And some interesting parts from this novel, it started from the narrator story about the interest, about the love journey, desire, the American dream, wealthiness, and etc. around 1920s. And also, in my observation, the novel clearly depicts the difference between the social classes such as old rich, new rich, and etc. And also, near the end of the story, the narrator depicts the real personality of the main character, Jay Gatsby, which is the sincere person, really optimist, and also have a true love for the one he loves. So those are the interesting parts from the novel that I got. After that, let's jump. Those are the casts for the adaptation movie that I have mentioned previously. So let's jump to the first topic, the setting. Started from the time. The setting of time from this novel in the early 1920s, and it is proven by the jazz performance in Jay Gatsby Gothic Mansions, the car, like you guys can see in the pictures above, which called as Duesenberg convertible, which made in 1929, and the real mansions that is depicts in the novel, which is existed in 1920s. Next, about the place. So it is divided into Long Island and New York City and the Valley of Essex. And in Long Island and New York City, it divided into two areas, which is West Egg and East Egg. And that is the area where is the scene or conversation mostly happened. And the Valley of Essex is located between Midway Street and the X and the Manhattan. And it is the place that located Tom Mistress, yeah. Next, I will I will describe about the main characters. So firstly about Nick Carraway. Nick Carraway is the narrator for the story, an honest, observant, and connector between the reunion love between Jay Gatsby and Daisy Buchanan. Next, Jay Gatsby, the title character, the protagonist and the most important character in the story, known as a wealthy businessman and also a great man, which is mentioned in the title of the novel, right? Next, Daisy Buchanan, Gatsby ex boy girlfriend, Nick's cousin also. She is really materialistic, sardonic, cynical, and etc. Next, Tom Buchanan, Daisy's wealthy husband. He is really arrogant, moralless, and cheater. Like I have mentioned before, she's cheating with Mrs. Wilson or Miss Myrtle Wilson. Next, Jordan Baker, Daisy's school for athlete friend and also a friend of Tom. She is kind of boyish and also insolent. Lastly, Mr. and Mrs. Wilson. So Mr. Wilson is an auto mechanic and his wife is a mistress of Tom. Okay, next I will discuss about the summary of the novel. So in the first chapter, the novel is narrated by Nick Carraway and the introductions to main characters such as Daisy Buchanan, Tom Buchanan, Jordan Baker, and also the introductions of the mysterious neighbor, Jay Gatsby. In chapter 2, Tom's affair is opened in the Valley of Asses, which is with Miss Myrtle Wilson, like I have mentioned before. He invited Nix into the Valley of Asses to meet Tom's affair. And in chapter 3, Mr. Gatsby life introduction through his glamour and massive party every week. So I have mentioned before, like in the time, yeah, he always conducts a glamour and massive party every week in his Gothic mansion. Next, in chapter 4, Mr. Gatsby explained about his background to Nick and confessed his own feeling for Daisy. After the first introduction, Nick is really curious to Mr. Gatsby past background, personal history, because he heard some bad rumors, bad gossip about him. So in this chapter also, Nick's known that the Great Gatsby is still in love with Daisy Buchanan. So after that, Nick arranges a reunion meeting between them. In chapter 5, it described the reunion meeting of Mr. Gatsby and his lover. In this chapter, Mr. Gatsby really prepares everything, including in Nick's house, in the garden, house, and surroundings. So in this chapter 5 is a reunion meeting between Mr. Gatsby and his ex-girlfriend. In chapter 6, after the meeting, some bad rumors about Gatsby spread quickly, which is his early life history, and his early life history was spread to just like his real name, where he come from, and his educational background, and etc. Next, in chapter 7, conflicts between Gatsby and Tom is clearly obvious now. Then a traumatic event happened. So after the reunion meeting, they are often meeting and in Gatsby mentions, and then Tom is suspicious of the relationship. Then they are agreeing to each other, and then Tom sent Daisy back to the Long Island. Then a traumatic event happened, which is Myrtle Wilson, Tom's mistress, is hit by Daisy Buchanan itself. So in chapter 8, after that traumatic event happened, Gatsby is falling too deep on disappointment because his biggest dream is gone. Wilson is coming for a revenge, and he shoots Gatsby. So after that event happened, Daisy Buchanan is becoming indecisive whether she has to choose Tom Buchanan, her husband, or choose her beloved ex-boyfriend, which is Jay Gatsby. So she chose Tom Buchanan and dumped Mr. Gatsby. So Mr. Gatsby is falling too deep on disappointment. And after that, George Wilson is knowing that it is Jay Gatsby and Daisy Buchanan who hit his beloved wife, and Wilson is coming for a revenge and shoots Gatsby. And Mr. Gatsby instantly died in the place, and afterward, Mr. Wilson is killed himself afterward. And last chapter, after he died, every relatives and former friends and acquaintance of Mr. Gatsby is disappeared, and nobody is coming to his funeral. And it is only Nick that always be there for Gatsby. Okay, coming to the conclusion. So I conclude that the story is about love and loss. So the lost spirit who always motivated Gatsby to be a successman, wealthy, and it makes him dedicate his life for the loved one through all the process and survive for the love's sake. So like you guys have heard about the summary, he is really deeply in love with Daisy Buchanan, and it is motivate him to gain success, to gain the money, power, optimism, and etc. only for Daisy's attention. But on the other hand, at the end of the story, Gatsby found out that the love who makes love that motivates him to gain everything, who also makes him lose everything, including his own life. And the love proves that all things that he done is useless and unworthy, because the main reason for him to gain that success, material, money, wealthiness is only for Daisy, right? So after Daisy is dumped him behind, it is really down and really think that all processes and the process and all things that he's done is useless and unworthy. So next, the lesson that I got from the novel is first, money, wealthiness, and power does not guarantee your happiness. Number two, love can be a great burden for us, but also be a disaster as well. Number three, only a pure-hearted, full of empathy, and sincerely considerate of others that will make us a great human, just like the Great Gatsby, right? So there are three reasons for me to recommend you this novel. Firstly, the moral value. It is not only highlighting the romance but also the real life lessons. Number two, the length. As a fact, the Great Gatsby only have less than 50,000 words, which means it is very fit to be read within a day or more. Number three, the plot. The novel is narrated interestingly with several plots that will not make the readers bored, just like tragic, romance, and desire. The answer. So, is the book easy to be read and why? Yes, it is easy to read because, firstly, the word choice that is used is categorized easy to be understood by all people. Number two, it is specifically made for everyone because the focus from the author is to highlight the meaning of love itself, but also together with its lessons. Number third, the illustration that is narrated by Nix is also clear and easy to be catched by the reader. So that's all the explanation and presentations about the book report. I hope it will useful for my final grade and thank you for paying attention for my explanation. I hope you have a great day. Thank you.